All right, good afternoon and good evening. So this is the review that's for the Chapter 4 quiz that we're going to have on Alex. So if you guys remember, we had talked about before, with this review, we basically take the review, we rename it, and call it your quiz. So this should be the third time that you see some of these equations if you've done the homework. As we move forward today through this, just make sure you guys understand the processes, the steps. This quiz is open notes. Take some additional notes if you need to use them for tomorrow, okay? So, or when we take the test. So what we're talking about here is a line passes through a point. One of the big key things before we begin is make sure that you guys know what the point slope formula is, the slope intercept form is, and then lastly the slope formula, okay? Where it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Please write those down. And then when we come back here, we'll be able to kind of talk about the next step. So, if you remember correctly, we do y minus y1 equals m, and then it's x minus x1. So it's asking to write the in point slope form, which is this particular form. And then what you do is you basically just plug in the values. So if it'd be y minus, and then my y is a -5, so this turns it into positive. And then it's going to be your slope, which is -3/4, and then it's going to be x minus 8, and that's it. So what you would do, ladies and gentlemen, is I would enter this equation right here into the formula, and I'd get the answer. That's simple on that one, right? If you have any questions, rewind, watch it again, but that's the simple setup. Number 2 on this is you start with the same set thing, where you have your formula and you simply solve it out. So you have your point slope. If you have a point slope, you use the point slope form. So once again, it's y minus, and it's going to be an 8 equals 5/4, and then it's x minus. In this case, it's a -4. So we don't write -4 like this. You write negative, and then that's double negative is a positive. So please make sure you guys understand that. And now we have to solve it out into slope intercept form, which is the y equals mx plus b. So when you solve this out, it's going to be y minus 8 equals 5/4x. 5 times 4 is 20. Divide that by 4, you get 5. And then add 8 to both sides, and you get 5/4x. Y equals 8 plus 5 is plus 13. I put that in the equation, and I would get the answer here. So write the equation in there. If I plug that in, ladies and gentlemen, I get the answer. You guys see that? If you struggle with this, please let me know. But you're going from point slope to slope intercept. Number 3 on the board. Number 3 on here, as you're going through, find an equation for the line below. So this equation is going to be pretty simple. It's going to be the point slope setup again. So what I mean by that is, for some of you in here, you're struggling with the fact of trying to figure out what the slope is. So I need you guys to be able to read the slope of a graph. So for example, we're going from this dot to this dot. So in order to go up, we've got to go up to here, and then we would take a right-hand turn and follow along in the graph right here. So if I go up, it's up 1, 2. Remember, it's always rise over run. So it's 2, and then it's going to be from 2 to 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 2/6, which is 1/3. All right, so we got our slope of 1/3. Now you just pick a random point. I'm going to pick the point with a 1 involved in it. So it's going to be this point right here. So it's going to be 4/-1 down. I have my point slope, use the form. So it's going to be y minus, and it's a +1 equals, because it should be y negative, but that turns to positive, 1/3, and then it's going to be x minus 4, and then you simply solve it out. Okay, so when you're going through this process, y plus 1, you distribute to both. It would be 1/3 x minus 4/3, because you would multiply that in, so it'd be 4 times 1, and then you would subtract 1 from both sides, and when you do that, you need to use a calculator. So on my calculator here, I would basically put negative 4 divided by 3, and then I would put minus 1, and my answer would be negative 7 over 3, which is 2 1/3, which if you look at your graph, okay, so know one aspect of this, guys. My answer here when I do this math equation setup, okay, in this box, I would put y equals 1/3 x, and then it would be minus what my calculator says, which is 7 over 3. Now, if you guys want to make sure you double check your answers, 3 goes into 7 2 times. And then it would go in 2 times, and it would also be 1/3. So does that look like it fits the profile very well? The answer, of course, is yes. It's also a positive slope, so I know that that is correct. Here's the thing, if your guys are going through this, in order to double check this b-intercept and make sure that it's actually correct. Some of you today in class, when you double checked your b-intercept, you realized that you were wrong, and so you would look back at your math and see where you made the fatal error. Please make sure you guys keep track of those things as you move forward, okay? Number 4 on here, as you're going through, graph the line. Well, this is not written in a way that helps you guys actually solve it. So what I've done is I want to make sure you guys use Desmos on this one. So you go into Desmos right here, you'd graph the line. Now, I'm graphing it here and it's slightly complicated, okay? So I have 2 points. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write them right here. So here's 1 point. So one of my points is going to be 1.667, comma 0. And my other point is going to be 0, comma negative 2.5. Okay? There are your 2 points. Hopefully you guys see that. You agree with it? Move on. Now what I want you guys to do is go back into Alex and let's have a conversation about this. Now, most of you may not be aware, and I may have to run to go grab my keyboard real quick, that if you're given random points like this, you can actually put them into the graph here to create a spot. So what you would want to do is, and I got to go get my keyboard, you click that little point, and you set that up there. So hold on with me for a second. Alright, so it's going to be 1.667, and then it's going to be, because I would like to test this theory out to make sure it's going to work, and then 0, and there's 1 point right there. What you do is hit a pop point, and it'll have it, and then my other point here is going to be 0, and then it's negative 2.5, and I would plot that point. Now the key factor here is then you would just take this random line right here, touch the point, touch the second one, there's your graph. Let's check our answer. And the answer is incorrect. Of course it is. And I bet you it has to do with this point right here. So what we're going to have to do is have to go back in and find a different one. So we go into Desmos, and we're going to have to find a legitimate point that is not a repeating decimal. So one of the reasons I wanted to make sure we do this is to see if it would work, and this repeating decimal point will not work. Now negative 2.5 is a solid number, so that'll be fine. So one other way you guys can do this is, as we talked about before, trace a line. So I'll look at this. This is 2 and 0.5. How about this one right here? 3, 2. There's a real legitimate point. So let's try it again. On Desmos, I said 3, 2 is a point. So let's erase a point here. So let's erase this line. Let's erase that point. And we'll put a point here. And then we're going to put the other one at 3 over, 2 up. It should be right there. Let's check that one. And there we go. Now it's correct. So one big key thing to note is that you can put in any random point, but it has to be a solid line and not repeating. Okay? Graph it in Desmos, find the points, and you guys will be perfectly fine with understanding how to get this done. Okay? Next. Number 5, when you're going through this, same thing. Now we're going to rewrite this one. And I'm going to use my other board now and use this part. So when you rewrite this equation here, it's going to be y minus 6 equals. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute this into here right now. so I can avoid that step. So it's going to be negative 5x, and then negative and negative is going to be a positive 20, and then here's your setup. So what you do then is add 6 to both sides, and there would be my equation. It'd be y equals negative 5x plus 26. But is this what they wanted? No, they want it to be ax plus by. So the x and the y have to be on the same side. So you'd add 5x, you end up with 5x plus y equals 26. Here's your answer. Plug it in. You go from there. It shouldn't be too complicated. Just make sure you guys can do the math. Don't overthink it, okay? Go in with an open mind. You guys should be succeeding very well. All right, Ryan is putting money in his savings account. When we're talking about a savings account or any type of growth where it's each week, okay, the setup is going to be that it is going to be a linear equation. Y equals mx plus b. But from there, you guys have to make sure you put the right numbers and information in. So Ryan is putting money in his savings account. He starts with $450. So where would the starting feature be? Now you guys got to remember, on a linear equation, one of the cross and the intersections right here at the y-intercept is the b. That is usually your starting point. So we know that my b is going to be 450. All right, and then it says each week he adds $40. So if you know you're going to add something each week, it would be $40. And here's my equation. So this is what you would put right here. My equation, except make sure you do the proper annotation. Because I almost wrote y equals. It's not. It's s. So it's s equals 40, and then I need to put w in there, plus 450. Make sure you read through the whole thing and write the proper annotation down. Because this right here, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, would have been marked as wrong. Because I used y and x when I should have used s and w. And by the way, sorry, it looks crappy. Then what you would do, guys, is you would take 40, times it by 16, and then add 450 to get the number right there. I do it in the calculator, but I don't care. You guys will figure it out. Please make sure you at least get that aspect done, and you move forward. Okay? Next on the board, number 7. One of the aspects of number 7 is just a simple setup, okay? This is y equals, this equation is set up as y equals mx plus b. What does the m stand for? It stands for the slope. So what is a line, what is the slope of a line parallel to this line? If this is your slope, anything parallel has the same slope. So this is negative 5 over 4. Not difficult. But slope of a perpendicular line means you take the slope here, you would flip it upside down, do the reciprocal, and then you'd multiply it by negative. So since this is negative, this one has to be positive. Remember, you're shooting for 90 degrees. Simple enough on that. Make sure you guys know, what if my slope was 5? Then my perpendicular, my parallel line would be 5. My perpendicular line would be 1 over 5 negative. Please make sure you guys understand that concept, okay? It's very important. If you struggle with that, write it down in your notes. Number 8, consider the line this, blah, blah, blah. What is the slope of this line? 2 ways of solving this. Show you the math way first. This is going to be, when you guys do the math on this, your setup is going to be 3x minus 8y equals negative 6. You would want to get it into y equals mx plus b. So my first step would be to subtract 3x from both sides. When you do that, you get negative 8y equals negative 3x minus 6. Then everybody, you would divide by negative 8. Does anything else matter at this point? The answer is no. I only care about this. Negative and a negative makes this a positive 3/8. So my slope here of a parallel line would be 3/8. And of a perpendicular line would be 8 over 3 with a negative in front of it. Make sure you guys have that set up and you work on it repeatedly. Okay? It's not that difficult, but your setup needs to make sure it's the same all the way across the board. Right? If you have your setup the same, you will be successful. Number 9, consider this line. it passes through. This is going to be the same thing, okay? So this one's the most difficult question on this test. What you guys would have to understand is here is your slope again. All right, if that is your slope, does this number here matter? No, it doesn't. Nobody cares about the 3. I only care that my m equals negative 2 over 5. All right, so a line that is parallel will have basically the same thing. So you would want to make sure you set it up as y minus. We're going to do the point slope form because we have a point and a slope, point and a slope, point slope form. So parallel would be y minus. Okay, and then it's going to be a negative 2, so that changes to positive. Equals, this one has the same slope. So it's negative 2 over 5, and then it's going to be x minus, and my x value is 5. Now here's what's ironic about question 9. The setup is exactly the same. What I mean by that is that this is also y plus 2 equals. Now the slope isn't the same, but this part is the same because it's the same point. The difference is perpendicular line, okay? So a perpendicular line means you flip this, so it's 5 over 2, and you make it a what? Positive, since this is negative. Now you would solve it out, okay? So on this one here, this is going to get a little crazy because 5 times 5 is 25. You divide that by 2, so you would end up with, so I'm going to go above it, y plus 2 equals 5 over 2x, and it's going to be minus 25 over 2. I realize that it's getting crazy. Subtract both sides by 2, and you're going to actually give an even larger number. That's what you would put in here. Same with this one. This one here, you actually eliminate the 5s. Okay, so you would end up with y plus 2 equals negative 2 over 5x, and then negative and negative is positive, but it'd be plus 2, because 2 times 5 is 10. 10 divided by 5 is 2. All right, and then you would subtract 2 from both sides, and look what you get. Y equals negative 2 over 5x. Is that legitimate? Yes, it is. That one up there, I'd have to use a calculator. If I put in one of these calculators here, if I put negative 25 divided by 2 in there, and then I put minus 2, it would come up with negative 29 over 2. So my final answer for this up here would be y plus, or not y plus, sorry. It would be y equals 5 over 2x, and then it's going to be plus, or not plus, sorry. It would end up being minus 29 over 2. If you struggle with that, please make sure you come see me, but that's a big weird one, and it happens, okay? So this one right here is, don't forget, this one here is parallel, that one there is perpendicular, and you go from there. Last, certainly not least on this wonderful journey, number 10, graph this in Desmos. So let's compare, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to compare lines 1 and 2. Now I have already drawn and graphed it on Desmos where I've got lines, so let me erase these so we know what we're looking at here. Come on. All right, so line number 1 should be 4x minus 10y. And if I look at this here, it's going to in fact be 4x minus 10y equals negative 2. The next one is y equals 5 over 2. You guys get the drift. So it asks, lines 1 and 2, parallel, perpendicular, and either. So what you need to do is go back in there and you turn on lines 1 and 2, and you see what it looks like. So remember, there's an aspect of this where it's the paper test. Is this a perpendicular line? The answer, of course, is what? No, because if it was perpendicular, it would come out to here. So on this first one here, the answer would be neither. So I do neither. Lines 1 and 3. So it's the very first line and the third line. So on Desmos, I turn that one off, turn that one on. 1 and 3, same thing, use a paper test. If you hold it up there, is it correct? The answer is no, it is not. It is not perpendicular, nor is it parallel. So what you would do is the same thing on Alex, you click neither. And then the last one there, lines 2 and 3. So we go to lines 2 and 3, we turn them on. Sorry, I keep getting the wrong things. 2 and 3, we turn those on. And ladies and gentlemen, what do those look like? Well, if you're not sure, continue to zoom out, and those look what? Those look pretty parallel to me. So you go back into Desmos, or to Alex, and you type parallel, and then you would check your answer, and let's hope I got it right, and I did. So the last one's not too difficult if you use Desmos, otherwise you have to handwrite everything and go from there. If you have any questions, come see me in class beforehand, please. Otherwise, good luck. If you have done the homework and done this review, you should be highly successful on this quiz. Good luck, get some rest, and I'll see you guys later.